Okay, what we're going to do today is we are going to do these universal RAM block modules that come from Bitspower, and these are the universal RAM cooling set for 4 DIMMs. Now, majority of the water blocks out there I know are made for like Dominator. The great thing is Bitspower did make a universal kit, so in the event that you don't have Dominator RAM, and for example, like I'm using Ripjaws in this build, and this is the memory that I'm running in Frank right now, so I cannot use the Dominator blocks. However, with Bitspower, they provide a universal kit that allows you to take and put these heat spreaders on your RAM and then be able to connect your RAM block on top of them. So I'm going to address a couple different things as well in this that people have asked. How easy is it to get your heatsink off? And to be honest, it depends on the RAM. Some RAM are easier, some RAM are not. These particular RAM modules do not have screws or any kind of anything connecting them except for the glue that's actually on the thermal pad right here. So these are a little bit tougher to get off because they are literally glued onto the RAM modules, and as you can see here, it even left a little bit of residue of that glue that was on there that I'm going to have to get off of this particular RAM module. As you notice, I'm sitting here and I'm just kind of messing with these RAM modules, but I wanted to show this is my ESD strap, and it's definitely recommended that you always have your ESD strap on, especially when you're messing with like your RAM modules. And when you're getting them bare like this, you definitely want to make sure that you're well grounded, because the smallest amount of spark from static electricity carries so much voltage. It's amazing, and you would not believe how much static electricity could literally kill your RAM modules. So definitely when you're dealing with your RAM modules, make sure that you are well grounded when you're doing this kind of work. Now you can use your thumb, your finger, whatever. You don't want to pry against the PCB. You don't want to pry against your terminal points here. You don't want to pry against the board. You don't want to bend this board at all. What you want to try to do is put all your pressure on this heat sink. So what I do is I'll hold the sink like this. I'll take my screwdriver, a little tiny screwdriver, and I'll put up under here, and as you can see, I'm using my thumb as that lever point, and I'm picking this up, and this one actually just popped off pretty easy. Most of them you got to kind of work your way down, and so you just kind of move your thumb down and do it that way against your thumb, and do it against your thumb. That way you can also control how much pressure you're popping this thing off with, because you need to be very careful about these little modules right here. You also need to be very careful about all these little tiny solder points, and you really might not be able to see it on here, but there is a tremendous amount of little tiny runs, circuit runs through this board. So you don't want to pry against this board. And then we can take this and do it by hand. It's actually better to do it by hand because you've got less chance of hosing up anything while you're taking off your module. As you can see, I'm just kind of working this thing around. I'm not trying to jerk it off in one motion. I'm just trying to work myself around until I can get this thing off. But as you can see, once you get it off, you've got a clean circuit board. Okay, now there's several things that you need to keep in mind when you start putting these things together. When you've got these RAM modules and you're going to start marrying them with their heat spreaders. One of the things that you got to keep in mind is number one, RAM is keyed. Okay, so you can see this is a shorter section here, and then it's got this notch, and then you got your longer section here. That's obviously the keying in order to be able to put these RAM modules correctly, orientated correctly in their DIMM slots on your motherboard. They use this keying. So whenever you're putting these in these, you're going to need to keep in mind which direction and what orientation you're using for your keying. That's number one. Number two is you need to make sure that every single one of these are inserted properly and correctly and identically to the other four. Why? Is because you got to make sure that they're all lined up correctly on the tops here, where you've got all of your connection screws, where they connect to these boards or to the blocks right here. They've all got to be in here. What that means is these have got to be lined up exactly, and then your keying has got to be lined up exactly. So that means that the modules inside of these, each and every single one of them need to be placed inside of these identically. So that way, whenever you get a completed set like this here, you're going to be able to take, you know, something and be able to put it right through that keying and verify that you actually have a direct see, like that right there. You can see that this was created correctly because it was able to go on to these modules very, very easily. You see that? You can see it was keyed correctly or orientated correctly on these. And so that's what you need to watch out for, is not only is it going to be where you can put in all of your screws, but not only are these screws important, but as you're putting these modules inside these heat spreaders, you need to make sure that all of these are lined up identically, or you're not going to be able to get this on correctly with these screws. So, what I have found, and this is just purely trial by error, is to start out by putting this on first. And I'll show you. And I had to learn the hard way on the other one. But this is actually going to save you a lot of time if you do it this way. And so you drop in your screw. First one's always going to be the hardest. I'm not saying you've got to put these things in here or get them cranked down real tight, but you do need to get them in there kind of snug. And you'll notice I'm not putting the thermal pads in between them. I'm not doing that right now because I plan on taking this block back off, then putting those thermal pads on these after I get them snapped into the DIMM modules on the motherboard, and then I'll reattach the block to the top of these. But for right now, just for the purpose of trying to get these things aligned and to get all of the stuff in there, I'm just putting them on there bare right now. And so what I do is I get this thing all the way to the end right here. So I take my first DIMM, which I know is going to be on the outside right here. Okay, so I take this and I attach it to the block. And so as you can see, I've got the screw as far to the end as I can, so I know for a fact that these are flush and lined up as far as they can be on this side. So what I'm going to do is then At this point, this is where I'm going to lay in the first module. Now I need to put the thermal pad on the module. And you can't really jerk this stuff off. You've got to take it real slow or it's going to stretch this stuff out. You take this thermal pad and you lay it onto your DIMM module. But once you get it in there, just kind of pad your thermal pad down a little bit. Make sure it's stuck on there really good. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to get it over top of every single one of these little RAM sinks that are in here. All of these little chips that are in here are the RAM chips, not the sinks. What you're trying to do is make sure that you've got these covered very well. And see, this one right here, I didn't pull that hard, so as you can see, it stayed the correct length. When you don't pull it off of these sheets really hard and you just kind of ease those things off, they tend to fit a lot better. Okay. Then once I've got this on both sides, if you notice, I'm pretty tethered. I'm still using this ESD strap to make sure I'm not messing up my modules. Now, you take this and you want to make sure that your orientation is correct. Now, my last ones, what I wanted to make sure is that this was to my left, that the short side was to my left side on this set. But the problem is these are going to be opposite. So what I want to do is I want to put this opposite from what these are. So that means the short side is on over here and the short side is over here on this side. So they're flipped. And so that's what I've got to do with this set, is to make sure they're all orientated this way. And what I want to do is I want to get them where I can just kind of visualize that they are evenly placed within this first module. Because this first module is going to set what the other three modules do. Once I've got that in there, I then take this and I put it on top. Now, I know this module lines up perfectly with this, so I know I can get this connected on this side, and now I'm going to get this put in here. What's going to happen is I'm going to do the next one the exact same way. Okay, so once we've got this done here, right, we now have our first module connected to our block here. You pick up your next heatsink that you're going to use, and you put that heatsink on, and you tighten this thing down. As you can see, maybe not, I don't know, let's see. You might be able to see that hole right there. There's a You can see where it lines up right there, where I've got to put in the screw. Okay. Okay. Now, what I've done is I've made sure that these right here are as tight and even as possible. You want to make sure that these are very, very tight up against each other like this. Why? Well, the reason is very simple. And that is, if these are cranked any other way, if they're tweaked, like say this is over 1/4 of an inch or 1/16 of an inch, if this is moved over and this is over here, then it's going to angle the keying right here. So you need to make sure that everything is tight and everything is straight and flush as absolutely possible, because you need to be able to get those modules in here and ensure that your keying is absolutely correct as well. To install these on the motherboard, it's rather simple. You just simply put in your RAM modules, and then using the thermal pads that they give you, put those on top of your RAM modules, and then place your water block on top of that, and then tighten down all the screws around your water block. Do that on the other side, and that's pretty much it. It's that simple. If you've gotten all of these things aligned correctly before doing this step, it should be really quick and easy. Just drop these modules in and get them all tightened down. And here are some pictures to enjoy as we exit the tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. Okay, once you've gotten all 4 modules in there, now you can come back, kind of loosen this up a little. Then you could take these and kind of center them a little bit better. That gives you your basic idea. And we're done. And everything is completely oriented correctly. You notice that now these are set up right. This has got the shorter end on this side. This has got the shorter end on this side. That means that these are going to be inserted. So this gets inserted this way. This one gets inserted this way. And now they're oriented correctly on here. Of course, I'll flip that Bitspower block around because I want to have Bitspower running the same way. But I'll do that when I put this module on. This one is obviously off. Somehow it got itself as you can see, I'm screwing a screw without a screw. As you can see, it has to be a balance between how this is connected inside here and how these modules go in each one of these and how they're oriented this way. That way you can have a straight key straight across on all of these.